the worst disaster of all, one that may well prove to be weather-related. The crash of a 737 Air Florida jet in Washington, D.C. The worst crash in the history of the capital, one that left 78 people dead as the plane failed to gain height after taking off from the city's national airport and slammed into the busy 14th Street bridge that links the city with its Virginia suburbs.
The wheels, it hadn't gone up yet all over, and it hit about 3 or 4 cars, I believe, and it went to the water. And I saw the plane hit the side of the first bridge, and it went to the water, and I think it got the left wing cut off, and everybody was just gone wild. Everybody was gone crazy. You hear screaming.
A rush hour nightmare in the severe snow squall as flight number 90 screams low over the bridge, shearing off the tops of cars before crashing into the icy Potomac River, leaving a gaping hole in the ice. Within minutes, helicopters are circling over the crash scene, trying to pluck struggling survivors out of the icy water. On the river banks, rescue workers slithering in the snow as they help victims from the water and rush them to hospital. Just what caused the crash of flight number 90 isn't yet known, but there is some suspicion that ice on the plane may have been a factor. As the investigation began, Bettina Gregory of ABC filed this report, and Mike Von Friend covered the grim search for bodies in the icy river.
Air Florida's Flight 90 was de-iced for the last time at 3:10 p.m. Sources close to the investigation report the 737 pulled away from the gate at 3:39. It moved slowly out onto the taxiway to get into position, but these sources say it didn't roll to take off until 4. This means a total of 50 minutes elapsed between the last de-icing and takeoff. A Braniff captain who was taxiing in the opposite direction reported there was a good deal of ice on the plane. The FAA manual is quite clear on this subject. It states it takes but 1/2 inch of ice to reduce the lifting power of some aircraft by 50%. And ABC News has learned that neither of the 2 D.C. police helicopters, one of which is equipped with pontoon, flew during Wednesday's rescue operation. And even though jet fuel was reportedly on the river, rescuers themselves say some of their number were smoking and threw cigarette butts into the river. Bettina Gregory, ABC News, Washington.
Helicopters circled the hole in the ice looking for victims. Fire and tugboats moved slowly through the water, combing the debris, and a giant crane lifted portions of what's left of Air Florida Flight 90. William Heron is a volunteer diving master who will assist in bringing the victims up.
It's a shame, but it's obvious that the people that are in the water now are dead. So you want to do the operation as safe as possible and not to jeopardize any more lives in the recovery operation.
As the morning search went on, bodies were spotted. The first to be pulled from the water were a woman and a child. Diving teams continue the search, and a pontoon bridge is being constructed to try and preserve as much of the jet as possible. Only 5 on board survived the crash.
I was sitting in the last seat in the airplane.
Bert Hamilton, a Maryland businessman, believes he was the first one out.
Once it hit, I knew I was going to get out. I knew I was going to make it. Yeah, I figured since I was still alive after the crash, that's the part that normally gets you. I had it made.
Joe Stiley, himself a pilot, was able to follow Bert Hamilton out through the rear of the aircraft.
I was unconscious momentarily. It was the water that, I think, getting in the water that woke me up or revived me. And the biggest thing was remembering to take off the stupid seatbelt. And then I could see a hole.
Patricia Felsh, Stingley's secretary on board the plane, also survived, and Priscilla Tirado escaped, but her 2-month-old son and her husband did not. Just as Mrs. Tirado was about to reach safety, her arms gave out. Lenny Skutnik, who happened to be traveling home from work, saw what was happening and dived into the water to pull Mrs. Tirado to safety. The hospital mistakenly told Skutnik the woman he saved was flight attendant Kelly Duncan. In fact, Kelly Duncan was lifted out of the water by helicopter. The 5 survivors are in serious but stable condition, suffering from broken bones and hypothermia, but each is expected to recover. Helicopter pilot Donald Usher says he wasn't even called to the accident until after the plane had been in the water for more than 20 minutes. Paramedic Gene Windsor was also in the helicopter throwing the rope. He says there was another victim in the water who insisted that all the others go first.
Again, this gentleman refused the rope to give it to other people, and we dragged 3 through the water at this point because they couldn't really hang on very well because of the cold water. Their limbs were just frozen. And we dragged them in, and we went back for the 6th man there, which obviously we had observed previously. He was not there.
Divers say the complete recovery of the Air Florida jet could require months, maybe not until the first spring thaw. Mike Monfremd, ABC News, Washington.
34 bodies still to be recovered from the Potomac, along with the plane's flight recorder. The freezing temperatures hampered today's salvage efforts.